Maybe you should go and call Krishna Kshetra Prabhu. Okay. He's in Gaura Hari's room.
One more mic. Yeah.
One mic is here.
Ich denke, es geht. We can move. I don't need.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihara Giri Var Ahara Gopi Jana Giri Vali Yes, Yasodanna Bhajajanhanjaya Jammanatharan Yaharihan Jammanatharan Yaharihan Jayaham Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Jasodanandana Bhajajanhanjaya Yasodanandana Bhajajanhanjaya Jammatharan Yaharidamunathiya Jammatharan Yaharidamunathiya Jayaham Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Kunjabiham Jayaham Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Hari Hari Hare Govind Govind Hari Hari Hare Govind Jasodanandana Bhajajanhanjaya Yasodanandana Bhajajanhanjaya Jammatharan Yaharidanunadiya Jammatharan Yaharidanunadiya Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Madhuvan Kunjabiharira Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Pavitra Pavitra Sarvavastam Kathobiha Ya Sundar Pundarikaksham Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyat Nirvisatha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai. So we are about to perform one of these regulative principles that are mentioned in the 64 regulative principles. Is also the acceptance of sannyas. And before I speak, I think it's very not only appropriate, but in the best possible Vaishnava cultural tradition, to honor the spiritual master, sannyas spiritual master, His Holiness Satchidananda Maharaj. So we requested, of course everyone knows Maharaj's deep feelings of unhappiness of not being able to be here for this wonderful ceremony. Such a very deep and close loving relationship he has with his godbrother, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu. And so we requested him to say something, and he said something by mail. And so I'll read that as the offering of Maharaj and the speech of Maharaj for this very auspicious ceremony. And he addresses not only Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, but he addresses everyone. This is from Satchidananda Maharaj. My dear Krishna Kshetra Prabhu and dear devotees attending this most auspicious ceremony, it is my great honor to address you on this most important day. Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I know Krishna Kshetra Prabhu almost from the first day when he stepped into our temple in Heidelberg. Since that time, I have been privileged to witness his devotional life as a friend. Although I am a runaway from school, and Krishna Kshetra Prabhu is a learned scholar of the Vaishnava philosophy, PhD, and highly refined devotee, he has always offered his kind attention to this insignificant soul. It is only due to our friendship, which is the gift of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Shri Krishna, to us that I am daring to say something about his Sannyas Initiation. My esteemed godbrother, the meaning and determination of the Sannyas Ashram is best expressed in this verse, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited in great ecstasy after he had taken sannyas from Keshava Bharati. This verse, and we will read it, which has become known as the sannyas verse in our Gaudiya Vaishnava lines, was originally spoken by a Brahmana in Avanti Desh when he decided to take exclusive shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So we'll read the verse. Etam sayastaya paratmanishtam ayasitam bhuvatmayar maharsavihi aham trisyami durantaparam tamo makundam gri visevayaiva. I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nations by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Wow, what a wonderful verse, Maharaj. If one accepts the sannyas order, his main business is to devote his mind, body, and everything he has to the service of Mukunda, the Lord who offers liberation from the ocean of samsara. Referring to Krishna Kshetra, you are most qualified for this step. Your whole devotional life has shown your unflinching devotion to the service of Srila Prabhupada. Now sannyas is the next logical step. You'll be given the sannyas mantra, which indicates a very confidential direction in your Krishna conscious life. It points to the service of Krishna's dearest devotee, Srimati Radharani. Srila Prabhupada spoke about this aspect of Gaudiya Vaishnava by remembering the blessings of his father. Quote, my father was a pure Vaishnava, and he wanted me to become like this. He was praying to Radharani. If any saintly person would come, he would simply say, give blessings to my son that he may become as Radharani's servant. That was my father's prayer. He never prayed that my son become a very rich man. He never prayed like that. Actually, it was his ardent desire that his son become a Vaishnava, and my Guru Maharaj's training has put me in this position. End of quote from Srila Prabhupada. I wish you on this day that the blessings of Srila Prabhupada are with you. If we wish the journey of our life to be full of service and ultimately bring us close to the divine couple, then we need the power of blessings. First and foremost, the blessings of our exalted spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and then the blessings of Lord Hari and that of the Vaishnavas. It is my fervent prayer on this day that Srila Prabhupada will give his full blessings to our Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, who will be soon a respectable sannyasi ordained properly in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, and I request all the assembled Vaishnavas to affectionately raise their hands, search their heart for their best wishes, and then join me in loudly calling, Jai Srila Prabhupada! Jai Srila Prabhupada! Sri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai! And Srila Prabhupada's exalted son, Sripad Krishna Kshetra Ki Jai! Sripad Krishna Kshetra Ki Jai! Krishna Kshetra Ki Jai! On this day, I am with you in spirit. Please continue to shower your mercy on this insignificant soul. Satchidananda Swami.
Swami ki.
So Maharaj shows the power of a great soul that even though he's not personally present, he becomes personally present in his words and his deep feelings of love and devotion to the devotees, and his fixed in his service to Sri Sri Radha Mohan. I'll say a few things because I'm supposed to. But I also feel somewhat inclined to say something also. But after reading that, what else I say will be just a step down. This verse that we quoted, and Prabhupada mentions this practically in every Sannyas Initiation, that in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we are accepting the Tridanda Sannyas. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Ekadanda Sannyas, he accepted a principle that was different from the principle of the Mayavadi Sannyas, which is the basis of their accepting Ekadanda. And that principle says, Mahaprabhu says, without devotion to Krishna, there is no real meaning to sannyas. So therefore, those who take the sannyas order in the Mayavadi tradition, which was very popular at the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are not considered by the Vaishnavas or by the principles of the essence of devotional service to the Lord. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Saro Kalunai, Sravanari Siri Chitte Koriye Hudoi, that in the hearts of all living entities, pure love of God is actually the innate quality of the living entity's existence. Nothing else really has any significance other than to awaken that love of God. So the process of pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process to come back to our original constitutional position of eternal, loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The principle of sannyas means to dedicate one's mind, body, life, and everything in the service of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada, in explaining this principle, mentions that the sannyas is more than just the formal ceremony. It is actually a dedication of one's everything in the service of the Lord in loving devotion, and that principle extends beyond the principle or definition of ashram. So as Prabhupada mentions in one, that actually it's not simply a change of dress, as is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 6.1. Anashritam karma phalam karyam karma karotiva sasannyasi cha yogiya cha. One who works devotionally for the satisfaction of Krishna is a sannyasi. The dress is not sannyas, but the attitude of service is sannyas. But, of course, there are those who accept this principle of complete renunciation, dedicating their life to the service of humanity. It is explained that a sannyasi does not have anything of his own. Not even his life does not belong to him. It belongs to the service of other living entities. So that's what it really means to take the sannyas order of life. We dedicate everything. We become the property of the Lord to be used in His service to uplift and to inspire others to take up the process of devotional service. That is what is called Paratma Nishtam, fixed on the devotional service of the Lord, as spreading the glories of the Lord, and as Prabhupada said, in every town and every village of the world. So, and therefore, although the formal sannyas is sometimes questionable, from the various traditions and other processes of practicing of the spiritual life. Sometimes it says, actually it's written in the Mahabharata, that there's 5 things you don't do in this age of Kali. I can't remember all 5, I can remember a few of them, but one of them, which is significant, is the acceptance of the sannyas order. But then there has to be a clarification. What does that verse actually mean? Simply to accept the sannyas order in the mood of renunciation, but not to work for the benefit of others, that's what that verse is saying. So that verse is saying karma sannyas, one who simply accepts the principle of sannyas and renounces all activity and performs meditation, practice, their own, what we say, spiritual, that is being condemned. So therefore, a sannyasi really means, or one who accepts the sannyas order, as in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to be an instrument for the Lord's mercy to the conditioned souls in this world. So that is the essence of the practice. And of course, this verse, which is very much fundamental, this gives the determination of the sannyas that through the power of his devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his service in devotion, he crosses over the ocean of material existence. The ocean of material existence is a deep, very vast and impossible ocean to cross. But by the mercy of one's spiritual master, dedicating to following one's ashram in the mood of renunciation, then one can receive the mercy of the Lord and become empowered to go back home, back to Godhead, or become qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. So we are very honored. I'm personally happy to be here. I didn't expect to have this opportunity to be in this position. It was quite unexpected. Of course, it was due to something that was unfortunate. But Krishna has a way of doing things. Once Krishna Kshetra Prabhu has invited me to come for his Sannyas Initiation, and I thought, oh, what a great opportunity to be there and to see a person who, for many years, we've known each other, we've traveled in different places, we meet each other, we preach in the same areas, and we've always somehow been together, took prasadam together, spent time together, tell jokes together. That was one of our main activities. Very transcendentally witty. So, and therefore I felt very much blessed and honored to be invited to this ceremony. But I'm even more overwhelmed by the opportunity to speak in this very, what we say, august assembly of wonderful devotees here. So please, all of you, as Sachinanda Maharaj says, give your prayers and best wishes for the success in this ashram. Believe me, from the history in our ISKCON society, we don't have a good track record of sannyasis who have accepted this, even directly from Srila Prabhupada, continuing that ashram for their entire existence. That shows how powerful material energy is. And Prabhupada said, and he used to criticize us and chastise us in a very, what we say, constructive way, that you Western devotees don't have enough fear of the Maya. You don't fear Maya enough. Maya is very powerful. And so, therefore, it takes the blessings of the Vaishnavas and the determination of the devotee and the mercy of the spiritual master to stay fixed in their service throughout life. In the case of Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, he has been performing the activities of the sannyasi for many years. It's quite rare, practically very rare in our society, we see a person who has been in the brahmachari ashram taking up the great responsibility of bringing other conditioned souls to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada by his devotion, taking the position of the spiritual master in our society. And he has done that so successfully, and at the same time maintained a wonderful track record of devotional activities in many areas, especially in the area of producing proficient amounts of spiritual literature. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said the main duty of a sannyasi is to write. The main duty of a sannyasi is to write. So Krishna Kshetra Prabhu has been doing that already. So he's actually been performing the activities of this ashram for many, many years. So the formalization of his accepting of the order is simply a consummation of his, well, we say, very wonderful service to Srila Prabhupada for many, many years. So, therefore, just continue. Just continue to inspire the devotees and continue to preach in such a very, what we say, powerful way to inspire so many others. So thank you very much for this opportunity to be here with all of you. I'm overwhelmed by this whole situation. But internally I'm very much pleased to have this opportunity to be here. So we would like to also call other senior Prabhupada Vaishnavas, devotees, to come and say a few words who were very close to Krishna Kshetra Prabhu and would like to offer a few words as part of this. So we begin with His Holiness Kadambakana Maharaj.
Om Jnanati Mirandasya Ginandanasavakya Shakshuramitamya Tasmai Shigurave Namaha Vansikulta Drugyas Kripasadugyecha Patitana Pavanevyo Vaisnavevyo Namo. We find that the process of the sannyas ashram is described in various Upanishads, and it is described in terms of a culture and a philosophical outlook. The philosophical outlook, an outlook of transcendence, of appreciating that true existence is on the spiritual platform and that the physical domain is temporary, and that all relations within this temporary domain are secondary to the eternal relationship. Therefore, the sannyasi has a culture of renunciation. The Upanishads highlight some points. It says, he lights no fire, meaning to say, especially, that he doesn't engage in all kinds of ritual sacrifices as householders were doing, but that he is simply directly connecting with the Supreme Lord beyond counteracting negative material activities through some karma kanda. He gives up the sacred thread and instead wears one made of knowledge. He has no fixed residence, as the Jabala Upanishad, and it recommends many places, amongst them haystacks or hollow trees or somewhere as places to spend the night. If that doesn't cheer you up, next is the sannyasi is considered to be dead. And it says in the Shraddha ceremony, offerings are made to 3 generations of ancestors that are deceased. And the sannyasi in the traditional ceremony would, as part of the whole thing, offer oblations to himself as a deceased person. So really, this is not a happy party, it's a funeral. Of course, then Vaishnava sannyas has a somewhat different approach to the situation. In the Chaitanya Mangal, it is described that when Nimai was about to leave home and take sannyas, that just as he was in the middle of the night trying to slip out of the door, suddenly Mother Sachi stepped in and blocked the way. And then it became a huge discussion. She confronted him, "You will take sannyas." He admitted it. Then she gave 100 reasons why not. And they were all good. And it was a big debate. And the final point that resolved the discussion was as follows, where Nimai said, "Mother, is it true that a son has to leave home and that he has to go into the world to make a fortune and then bring that fortune back to his parents?" She said, "Yes, that is true." He said, then I must go and obtain the fortune of love of God and bring that back to you, my mother. So in the Vaishnava tradition, especially, the focus is on this element of loving devotional service, taking shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda. To cross the ocean of material existence means to develop one's love for Krishna very deeply, and that was truly the purpose of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sannyas, and that is obviously of great interest to us. Still, we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although after his sannyas, he showed immediately that love of God. So, at the same time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained also within the Upanishadic culture to an extent. He would not accept a mattress from Jagadananda Pandit, he would not use perfumed oil and all these things. He ate very simple, and so he had that external culture of renunciation. Then, as time progressed, we see that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada built a bridge from the tradition to modernity, and on the strength of Yukta Vairagya, and began to use a motor car, an overcoat, and began to pave the way for sannyas in the modern world. So, yeah, in this modern world, it's an experiment, sannyas. Prabhupada writes in the purport in the first canto, those men who dress up like sannyasis, right, about those years age, because we have so little of the traditional spirit of just going into the forest and relying on Krishna and just, I have a little passage that I wrote myself. It's actually from an unpublished, well, it's a metaphor from an unpublished work. The sannyasi walks high on the tightrope of his narrow vows. To the extent that his heart is filled with love of God, The path of the robe becomes as wide as a royal avenue. And to the extent he is lacking in love for Krishna, it becomes narrower and narrower, and people will hold their breath. Will he fall down? But a level below the court is a net of culture and philosophy, a fallback position when love is lacking. In this way, the great experiment of finding our balance in that new identity is there. Of course, in the case of Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, he is already taking sannyas in a stage of maturity, spiritual maturity. And what will the danda really offer him? A danda, certainly for one thing that it does, it draws public attention. And with that, a public demand and public expectations. And it is hard to ignore that, especially when the Vaishnavas are involved. So dandas tend to change one's life externally in so many ways. Krishna Kshetra Prabhu already has been on a public platform of spiritual leadership for a long time, as a spiritual master, as a Vaishnava scholar who is looked upon as one who can really give Siddhanta. So in that way, he's had that platform already, but the danda will certainly magnify that platform. One more thing that's on my mind is that inner purpose of increasing one's love of God. And I'm thinking that vows are interesting things, because vows, generally speaking, make us act on a level which is above what would come naturally. Otherwise, why would we have to take a vow? So the vow is a means to make us act on a higher platform. And therefore vows have the tendency to absorb so much of our activities. Vows need a sacrifice to maintain them. And vows tend to ask for more and more sacrifice. No vow asks for more sacrifice than the sannyas vow. Sometimes I'm thinking of it as the all-devouring vow. The one that wants everything. The vow that wants that we withdraw all our love from anywhere and everywhere and deposit it at Krishna's feet. And then turn back. And then offer that love again to the entire world. So in this way, the sannyasi is indeed embarking on an amazing journey. And it will be very interesting to see how Krishna Kshetra Prabhu will use his sannyas danda for the benefit of the world, and for deepening his love for Sri Sri Radharani. Thank you very much.
So we'll call on Vaidya Prabhu to please stand up and say a few words to our Krishna Kshetra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my most humble obeisances on this auspicious day of this important vrata you are taking, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu. I've known Krishna Kshetra Prabhu 3 weeks after he joined the temple. I first met him in the Hamburg temple, and there were a few very important impressions in our lives that we joined, that we experienced together. The first one, the first deities, Radha Krishna deities, both Krishna Kshetra Prabhu and myself saw were Chota, Radha Madan Mohan, who you see on the right hand side on the altar, who are having their auspicious Janmastami appearance day today in the Hamburg temple. Then also, the first time we saw Srila Prabhupada in Paris was also together in 1972. But Krishna Kshetra Prabhu was initiated at that time directly from Srila Prabhupada because he had already been in the temple in Hamburg for 3 weeks. Whereas I had only been there for 3 days. There are other things that we did together. We were on the first German Sankirtan party with Tagore Prabhu from the Hamburg temple. And then just Krishna Kshetra Prabhu and myself were on the first Sankirtan party in the country of Denmark. We spent an entire summer together, just the two of us, giving Bhagavatam lectures to each other and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. So from that point on we have a very strong friendship. Then later I became Sankirtan leader before him and he was my driver. For some time on the Sankirtan party. And there was one special thing about Krishna Kshetra Prabhu as a driver. He would never drive faster than 80 miles an hour. Even on German highways, so we would always get to our destinations a little later than others. And also another special thing about Krishna Kshetra Prabhu as a driver on the Sankirtan party was he would take rest on the two front seats of the van, which was the most uncomfortable seat, and I thought this is a very renounced person. There's one thing Krishna Kshetra Prabhu did under my instruction, and which didn't work out. I asked him to drive the car to a specific point where the car got stuck. And then we had to get the farmer to get the van back. So then together with that I also asked myself, why is Krishna Kshetra Prabhu taking sannyas so late? Like Chandamauli Maharaj was saying, and I think one motto in Krishna Kshetra Prabhu's life is rather safe than sorry. So this is why we didn't stay on Sankirtan together very long, but he took shelter of higher authorities in the movement to be safer there. And this is also why I think he doesn't like to change ashram. See, I changed my ashram 30 years ago when I became a grihastha. But now, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, you are changing your ashram only now. The person, I think, has to at least have one change of ashram in his life. So therefore I'm very proud that we are also changing the ashram. Of course, that change of ashram is quite different from taking Grihastha ashram. Actually, I don't understand what it is. I have no experience, but we are very thankful that we have heard some Krishna Kshetra Prabhu and
So I'm supposed to speak 3 minutes, so if I will take this 3 minutes. So I really admire Krishna Kshetra Prabhu because he really deeply dives into the philosophy of Krishna consciousness on the academic level, and this is very inspiring to see that someone is Krishna consciousness. At the same time, he's very deeply really diving and gives a good example. So a long time I'm watching all these sannyasis, and sometimes I was thinking,
You're next.
how long he will make it. And sometimes you also develop some kind of higher sense who will make it and who will not make it. Sorry.
You want some statistics?
I have some inner statistics. I have some yeah, I try to watch people and see how analyze people. And I also was thinking why people take sannyas, because the real attractiveness, Krishna is all attractive, and when someone is attractive because he is surrendered to Krishna and he worships Krishna and he has love for Krishna, you don't need to have an outward change of dress. So therefore Krishna Kshetra for me is like this example that he really shows this. It's not depending on the dress or some ashram, it's like depending on the love for Krishna one has and the dedication, and this is attractive. And therefore people come, and in the Western world people, they don't trust this outward dress and opulence and all these church people, they don't trust them so much. They really want to have someone who's real. This is the real, authentic Krishna consciousness. This is the most attractive thing. And then I see Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, he is the one, and he gives us an example which is very seldom, that he so long doesn't take sannyas, and now he is taking, it's okay. I can see that he will make it. And therefore I really like this ceremony for him.
Thank you, Jaguar. We have Nagapati Mataji. She's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada coming from America. She's everybody's mother.
It's a very great honor to be at such an esteemed Buddhist initiation, sannyas. And it's a very significant step in one's life and in one's community and in the world. However, when I met Krishna Kshetra, I thought he was sannyas. He's lived as a sannyas for many, many years. Many people say that to me that I'm very fortunate because I met Srila Prabhupada and I had association with Srila Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada left, it was a great void and it was a great loss. But then there came a comfort, and that comfort came from the devotees who have dedicated their lives so sincerely to Lord Chaitanya's movement. Krishna Kshetra is such a person. And I've seen qualities of Srila Prabhupada in these people. And in Krishna Kshetra, I see a scholar and a gentleman. And I thank you for your dedication of your life to Srila Prabhupada. And I pray that you have many, many years in all facility to continue on with your devotion and your service.
And before we begin the next part of the ceremony, we have one more speaker that we'd like to call up. His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. Can say a few words.
Gurave Gurachandraya Adhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. So, like Mother Navapatni, I'm also feeling very blessed to be here. It's a very auspicious occasion. And like her, I find it a little hard to, I don't even say Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, I say Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj. I live in India, and most people address preachers and gurus in that way. And certainly he has all of those qualities. Sometimes people outside of our movement, they question, what is the necessity of sannyas for Vaishnavas? And Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj is very aware of these kind of ideas that people have, because in Gaudiya Vaishnavism there is no tradition of that. Srila Prabhupada says that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati introduced that. But we should contemplate very deeply what that means, because I see that very much in Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj.
just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas for Bahiranga Karma, an external reason, and Antaranga Karma, an internal reason, so also Srila Saraswati Thakur and our sannyasis in our line have also done so. The external reason was for prachar, for preaching, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. But there was also an internal reason, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. And he found that he had a problem. He couldn't reciprocate properly with the gopis and Radharani, because as Krishna himself says, Vyavasyatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. You should be one-pointed and not be bahusaka yanantascha, be multi-branched. But Krishna is multi-branched. The gopis are one-pointed, but Krishna is reciprocating with people in so many different rasas. So to make himself one-pointed, he took sannyas. The external reason was for preaching, but there was also an internal reason, because he's in the mood of Radharani. In the Prema Vilas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells Lokanath Swami that very soon I'll take sannyas. And he said, the reason is because I have this debt that I have to repay to Srimati Radharani. And he says that whenever Srimati Radharani was feeling separation from me, she would wear saffron cloth. And therefore, and she would cry. And so to repay my debt to her, I also am going to take that saffron cloth. And I'm also going to cry. Some Vaishnavas, they say that in separation from Krishna, Srimati Radharani begins to cry. And those tears come down in her breasts, which are covered with kumkum. And that kumkum then colors her dress and makes it into a saffron color. And that's the purport of Gaudiya Vaishnava sannyas color. So Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj is somebody that I feel really very happy to be here at this ceremony, because really he's a sannyasi externally and I think internally. And sannyasi is someone who should be a Mahatma. He's a citizen of the world. And I see that in Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj, that he's so very broad-minded. He has friends in many different Vaishnava Sanghas, and he speaks in a very, very broad-minded way. So this is just a very natural thing for him to do, to take sannyas like this, because already externally he was doing something, and internally he was also like this, but now he's just accepting some formal dress like this. Thank you very much.
Sir Rama, would you like to say a few words?
I have very little to say. I met Krishna Kshetra Prabhu / Maharaj in Mayapur many years ago, and then serendipitously, actually wasn't so serendipitous, Hridayananda Maharaj, he was visiting Santa Barbara at the time, Krishna Kshetra Prabhu as well, and he said to Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, you're already studying and you're a perfect Brahman, why don't you just go to school and get credit for it? So he decided to do that for the benefit of, in general, our benefit. It's another book advertisement right here. Then he became my roommate. I was a brahmachari at the time, and he went to school, and he was a real devotee. We have seen the dead man's curve, like schools actually turn devotees into non-devotees, but actually he became a stronger devotee, so you can see his backbone as a true Vaishnava. And now I was glad to be invited by him to come to his sannyas ceremony. Actually, I asked him, I can't remember how many years ago it was, maybe 20 some years when you were in Santa Barbara, something like that. And I asked him, why is that you don't take sannyas? You're already acting like one. He said, I don't want to be under the limelight. Well, too bad, right? Now he will be. And as Prabhupada, when asked what's the definition of a devotee, most times he said is a perfect gentleman. So I admire Krishna Kshetra Prabhu because he's, in every circumstance, a perfect gentleman. So, honor to be here. Thank you.
Next part of our ceremony is now we turn it over to Krishna Kshetra Prabhu to make his request for the sannyas. Yes.
Boguro Bhikshu Payogam Yoga Patadikam Mangrahaya
Yadyevam taripaisya iti varyatrayam prayasva bhadra.
Praishosmi, Praishosmi, Praishosmi.
Please make a little path so we can go back to Srila Prabhupada also. Now the blessings of the sannyasis who are present, Kadambakana Maharaj. Now reappear in a different form. Externally. So now we have kirtan, and during this time, Krishna Kshetra will down his sannyas card.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
So the next part, Maharaj will receive the Danda, mantra, and name. Actually, it's mantra, name, and Danda in that order. So this is where we get a little private. This is a mantra that is only chanted by sannyasis. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I am simply here as a representative of his actual sannyas guru, His Holiness Sanchinandana Maharaj. So Maharaj has requested that the name be Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. But I'm going to add something. Our Srila Prabhupada was affectionately referred to as Swami Maharaj. So, Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj.
Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj ki jai!
Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj ki jai! So now you are officially dead. This funeral has been consummated and completed very successfully. So now we will do, the next part will be the So you also have some response.
Om Achyutagotraya Svaha. Om Achyutagotroham Asmi.
By chanting this, he has accepted all this as part of his sannyas ceremony and has agreed to everything we have done. Fully. For a lifetime. So now we will perform the yajna. Mahendra Prabhu will conduct the yajna. So everyone chant japa as we...
We will just start with chanting a few voices for balance and help for auspiciousness, and then we will begin with chanting. Ishvara
Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadilaya Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prasatma Suvapariksha Lasha Vitesha Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasrashamaham Govindamadi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Vedam Parantamaravindalayatasham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Alochandra Sarpanamaya Vamshi Ratnagatam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamantri Bangalamitam Giyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Angaliyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashyanti Banti Kavayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sarupa Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantatarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayaupanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabha Durlabha Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Namaham Bhajami.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
chant. Everyone can repeat. Namo
Swarupaya Rupanuga
Varayate Swaha 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 Gauravirbhava Bhumespam Nirdeshta Sajjanapriya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Swaha 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 Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Swaha Swaha Pancha Tatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Swaha Swaha Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Swaha Jayatam Suratau Mama Mandamatirgati Matsarvasva Padam Bhujau Radha Madana Mohanau Swaha Vrindaranya Kalpadrumata Srimad Ratnagara Simhasana Stau Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Vrishthalibhi Sevyamano Smarami Swaha Shriman Rasarambhi Vamshivaktam Tatastitaha Karsham Venu Swanaye Gopi Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Swaha Tapta Kanchana Pranamami Hari Priye Swaha 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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha Swaha Stand up. Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Swaha
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hey! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Founder His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki, Jayam Vishnupada Mahan Smariva Jakacharya Astottara Shakta Shri Sriman His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj Ki, Ananta Gauri Vaishnavin Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Sri Rup Sanatan Bhattaragana Sri Goloka Raghunath Sadguru Swami Ke, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ke, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ke, Vrindavan Dham Ke, Mayapur Dham Ke, Shri Jagannath Puri Purushottam Kshetra Dham Ke, Gangamaya Ke, Subuddhamaya Ke, Tulsi Maharani Ke, Bhakti Devi Ke, Subhaveda Bhaktivinoda Ke, Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ke, Radha Madan Mohan Ke, Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ke, Shri Avirbhav Titi, Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ke, Shri Janmastami Festival Ke, Shri Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj Ke, Shri Swami Maharaj Ke, Kshetra Swami Maharaj Ke, Hari Om Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Shri Goloka. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. I have a little announcement for the following of the program. Right now is the time for Chandramuli Maharaj to give a Japa inspiration, Japa workshop that will be in the bar house. If you walk in direction of the guest house, there is a small page announcing there, right after the pizzeria. Otherwise, for all the disciples of Krishna Kshetra Prabhu is now a disciple meeting in the tent. Oh, Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj. So that will be in the big tent. For the at 2:30 is the procession of Shri Radha Madan Mohan going out of the temple. We are not so sure how it will go because the weather is not so inspiring yet. But from 2:30 on, you can be here around, and the deities might go shortly out. We will have a swing festival here in the temple room, and this will last around until around 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Madame Ananta Prabhu will give a kata here until 6:45, and then a little surprise, and then we will start with the Abhishek. Another important announcement for those of you who are a little elderly or very young and cannot really fast on such a day. For those who have registered and have their small finger on the wrist, you can go to the stand of Rajendra and have a meal for free. So all those who are registered and cannot fast, you can get a meal there to Rajendra Kumar's stand. Hare Krishna.